Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something I find absolutely fascinating, the invisible technology that silently protects our everyday routines. I mean, we live in a world where we just expect our food to stay fresh and our financial transactions to be instantly, perfectly secure. But how often do we actually stop to think about the massive, hidden engineering infrastructures making all of that possible?
So let me ask you something kind of weird. What on earth do your milk and your money actually have in common? On the surface, absolutely nothing, right? But when you grab a cold carton of milk from the fridge or tap your chip card to pay for it at the grocery store, you are relying on incredibly complex, hidden, looping cycles of engineering. Both of these systems operate entirely out of sight, relying on closed loops to keep the bad stuff, like heat and fraud, out, and the good stuff, like freshness and data integrity, safely in.
All right, here's our roadmap for today's explainer. We'll look at 1. Invisible tech in plain sight. 2. The physics of refrigeration. 3. Monitoring and future cooling. 4. Secrets of the chip card. 5. Managing cryptographic keys. And finally, 6. Trusting our hidden tech.
Okay, let's jump right into part 1, invisible tech in plain sight.
We walk around with so much peace of mind every single day. We really don't stress about our groceries spoiling or our bank accounts just being drained out of nowhere. Why? Because these massively complex, completely invisible automated systems are handling the heavy lifting behind the scenes. We just trust the automation. Moving right along to section 2, the physics of refrigeration. So to really get how a fridge works, we've got to look at the science, specifically heat engineering. This is a subfield of thermodynamics that deals with moving heat around, through conduction, convection, and radiation. But here is the truly mind-blowing part. Your fridge doesn't actually make cold. Scientifically speaking, you literally can't create cold. Instead, its whole job is to pull heat out from the inside and push it outside. It's not a cold maker, it's an active heat removal machine.
And it pulls this off using a beautifully rhythmic 4-step physical loop, usually with an eco-friendly chemical refrigerant like isobutane. Here's how the cycle goes. First up, evaporation. Inside the fridge, the liquid refrigerant turns into a gas, sucking up the heat from your food. Second, compression. A compressor squeezes that gas, which shoots its pressure and temperature way up. Third, condensation. That hot, highly pressurized gas travels to the coils on the back of your fridge, dumps all that absorbed heat right out into your kitchen, and turns back into a liquid. And finally, expansion. That liquid hits an expansion valve. The pressure totally plummets, it cools down incredibly fast, and boom, it's ready to head back inside and do the whole shebang all over again. Which brings us to section 3, monitoring and future cooling.
Now, the absolute key here is making sure this physical loop literally never stops. Because if it does, well, your food spoils. That's where advanced monitoring comes into play. Think about giant supermarkets. For them, data loggers are the ultimate security monitors. These tiny devices are constantly sniffing out temperature and humidity data. If a compressor is just running nonstop or humidity suddenly spikes, a data logger catches the problem, say a leaky door seal or a wonky thermostat, long before the whole system crashes. It's basically predictive security for our food supply. All right, let's switch gears a bit. Section 4, Secrets of the Chip Card. Okay, we're going to pivot away from the physical loops of heat engineering and talk about the hyper-secure digital loops of EMV smart cards. Yep, the chip card sitting in your wallet right now. Just like that continuous flow of liquid refrigerants we just talked about, we're now looking at a super secure sequential highway. But instead of chemicals, this highway moves data payloads. The second you insert your chip card, a wildly complex orchestrated flow of digital information zooms from your card down the digital highway to your bank and back again to authorize your payment. And this EMV ecosystem is massive. When you tap that card, you are instantly sparking a conversation between a whole bunch of different players. You've got the issuer, which is your bank, a certificate authority that manages trust, the acquirer, the authorization system, the data preparation system that originally built the card, and of course the actual point-of-sale terminal at the store. Every single one of these entities has to securely pass cryptographic keys back and forth and greenlight your transaction in the exact, 2 or 3 seconds you're standing there at the checkout counter. It's kind of wild. And the security on these chips, it has evolved brilliantly over the years. Back in the day, the industry relied on something called static data authentication, or SDA. But there was a glaring flaw there. SDA spits out the exact same static data every single time you use the card. So it was super vulnerable to criminals just copying it and running a replay attack. To fix that, the industry rolled out DDA, dynamic data authentication. This is a real game changer. With DDA, your smart card physically holds its own unique RSA cryptographic key. It generates a totally unpredictable, one-of-a-kind code for every single transaction. So even if a hacker snatches that data midair, it is completely useless to them for the next transaction. So how do we keep those keys safe? That's Section 5, Managing Cryptographic Keys. Because, let's face it, a secure key is only useful if it's kept absolutely secret from the exact microsecond it's born. And that brings us to the crazy real-world logistics of managing these things. Here, we're looking at a personalization machine. After your bank's data prep system bundles up all your customer info, it encrypts it and fires it over to one of these bad boys. This is the final step where advanced mechanical modules physically write the encrypted keys, your secret pen, and digital certificates right onto the tiny microchip on your blank plastic card. But wait, how do banks guarantee that nobody swipes those keys before they even make it onto the plastic? Well, enter hardware security modules, or HSMs. These things are basically tamper-evident digital fortresses. Under the ridiculously strict rules of payment networks, a cryptographic key is only ever allowed to exist in its clear, unencrypted form while it is strictly locked inside one of these HSMs. If a key ever needs to move from one entity to another, it gets heavily encrypted using specific transport keys that only work in isolated key zones. There is literally no way around it. Let's bring it all together now in Section 6, Trusting Our Hidden Tech. Now, I want you to notice how these two totally different worlds actually mirror each other. Seriously, think about it. Back in your kitchen, that tiny expansion valve strictly controls physical pressure and thermal access to keep the refrigerator loop running. And in your wallet, a cryptographic key strictly controls digital authentication and data access to keep the EMV network loop running safely. Both of these incredible systems rely entirely on highly specialized, perfectly engineered choke points to keep the cycles running safely. It's all about controlling access within a closed loop. So I'm going to leave you with this one final thought today. How incredibly vulnerable would you be if these invisible cycles just stopped spinning tomorrow? I mean, without the thermodynamic cycle, our entire food supply chain would collapse overnight. And without the cryptographic cycle, the global financial system would just grind to a dead halt. So the next time you pour yourself a glass of cold milk or, tap your card to buy it, take just a second to appreciate the brilliant, hidden engineering continuously spinning away in the background, protecting your everyday life. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep learning.